The gleaming spires of the Galactic Academy of Physical Sciences pierced the purple sky of Centauri Prime, their iridescent surfaces reflecting the light of 3 suns. Zara Patel stood at the base of the main tower, her Earth Standard duffel bag slung over her shoulder, trying to ignore the whispers and stares from passing alien students. Specimen of Planetary Classification 12, please proceed to decontamination, chirped the Academy's AA through her universal translator. Zara sighed. She'd already gone through 3 rounds of decontamination since leaving Earth, but apparently being from a deathworld meant constant scrutiny. "I have a name," she muttered, stepping into the sanitization chamber. "It's Zara." "Noted. Specimen Zara. Please remain still during the procedure." The decontamination mist settled on her dark skin, tickling slightly. Through the transparent walls, she could see a group of luminary students floating past, their bioluminescent bodies dimming in what she'd learned was their expression of fear. 3 months ago, she'd been a regular college athlete in Mumbai. Now she was the first human ever accepted into the galaxy's most prestigious physical sciences academy. The chamber door hissed open, and Zara stepped into the main atrium. Her first class was listed as Comparative Genophysiology and Performance Metrics in Laboratory Hub 7. Following the holographic guidance arrows, she made her way through corridors that seemed designed for beings of every conceivable shape and size. "Watch your step, Deathworlder." A gelatinous Morbulian student oozed rapidly across her path, its translator making the warning sound more like a threat than a courtesy. The laboratory was already half full when she arrived. The instructor, Professor Engstill, was a Vardarian, a species that looked like a cross between an earth octopus and a coral reef. Their chromatic skin shifted through patterns of blue and gold as they manipulated the room's holographic displays with multiple tentacles. "Ah, our terrestrial participant has arrived," Professor Engstill announced, causing every alien head, appendage, and sensory organ in the room to turn toward Zara. "Please take your assigned station. Today we begin our comparative analysis of species-specific physical capabilities." Zara approached her workstation, noting how the other students gave her a wide berth. Her designated partner, a willowy siren named Kix, seemed to be trying to merge with their chair to maintain maximum distance. "I don't bite," Zara said, attempting humor. Kix's translator must have struggled with the idiom because their feathered crests stood straight up in alarm. "Your species engages in tissue consumption." Kix's melodic voice warbled with horror. "No, I mean, never mind." Zara focused on the holographic display materializing above their workstation. The screen showed comparative baseline metrics for various species represented in the class. Today's exercise will measure adaptation to gravitational variance. Professor Engstill explained, their skin now pulsing with patterns of green and silver. Each pair will document their physiological responses to conditions ranging from 0.1 to 3 standard gravity units. Zara glanced at the numbers, doing quick mental math. Even the highest setting would only be about 80% of Earth's gravity. She raised her hand. "Yes, Specimen Patel. These readings, they're calibrated for standard Federation gravity. Naturally, we wouldn't want to risk injury by exposing students to excessive gravitational forces. But Professor, Earth's gravity is significantly higher. I actually might need more resistance to get an accurate baseline." The laboratory fell silent. Professor Engstill's skin shifted to a deep purple of confusion. "You mean to say you regularly function in what we would consider crush depth conditions?" "Well, yes. Earth's gravity is about 3.7 standard units, if I'm converting correctly." The silence broke into a wave of translated murmurs and exclamations. Kix's feathers were now cycling through what must have been their entire species' color spectrum. Fascinating! Professor Engstill's tentacles danced with academic excitement. Perhaps we should modify today's experiment. Would you be willing to demonstrate your species' gravitational adaptations? Before Zara could answer, the laboratory's safety systems began flashing warnings. Alert! Detected potential hazardous biological capabilities. Implementing containment protocols. Override safety protocols. Authorization Engstell Prime. The professor quickly intervened. This is precisely why we need to update our understanding of interspecies capabilities. Specimen Pato represents an opportunity to expand our knowledge of evolutionary adaptation to extreme environments. For the next hour, Zara demonstrated basic human physical capabilities that her alien classmates found alternatively terrifying and incredible. Simple jumping jacks in Earth-normal gravity made some of them hide behind their workstations. When she explained about human children playing in bounce houses, several students had to excuse themselves to their species equivalent of fainting couches. Remarkable! Professor Engstill's skin had settled into a pattern of excited swirls. And you say these capabilities are average for your species? Below average, actually. And not even close to being as strong as our top athletes. The laboratory erupted in chaos again. Zara couldn't help but smile. If they were this impressed by basic calisthenics, wait until they saw what humans could really do. As the class ended, Kix approached her with what appeared to be a mix of fear and curiosity. Is it true that humans deliberately expose themselves to increased gravity for recreation? You mean weightlifting? Yeah, it's pretty popular back home. I could show you sometime if you're interested. Kix's feathers rippled with what Zara hoped was excitement rather than terror. Perhaps, from a safe distance, and with appropriate safety barriers in place. It wasn't quite friendship, but it was a start. As Zara packed up her equipment, she caught her reflection in one of the lab's polished surfaces. Just another day as a human in an alien world, where simply being herself was enough to challenge everything they thought they knew about physical limitations. Little did they know this was just the beginning. The Academy's environmental simulation chamber was a technological marvel that could recreate conditions from thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Today, it looked like a nightmare designed by someone who'd never heard of safety regulations. Welcome to Advanced Adaptation Assessment, announced Administrator Venarx. Their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that suggested either excitement or indigestion. Today's session will test your ability to function in various extreme environments. Zara stood with her fellow students at the chamber's entrance, noting how even the normally stoic lithoids were vibrating with anxiety. After last week's gravity demonstration, the Academy's administration had been eager to explore the full extent of human capabilities. First scenario, thermal variance. Venax's crystal segments chimed as they activated the chamber's controls. We'll begin with moderate temperature fluctuations. The chamber divided into sections, each with its own microclimate. Zara watched as her classmates deployed various protective measures. The Sirens, including Kix, activated personal force fields. The Morbulians secreted protective coating. The lithoids simply stood there, being rocks. Specimen Patel, your environmental suit seems to be malfunctioning, Venarx observed. I'm not wearing one, Zara replied, dressed in standard Academy athletic wear. But the temperature variance will range from 260 to 310 Kelvin. Zara did the conversion in her head. So, about -13 to 37 Celsius. That's pretty much just weather on Earth. The chamber's safety systems began flashing warnings again. Zara was getting used to that. "Impossible," muttered a lithoid student named Grax. "No biological organism can function across such a range without technological assistance." Zara shrugged. "Ever heard of Canadian winter sports? Or beach volleyball?" As the simulation began, Zara moved through each zone with ease, explaining how humans had adapted to living in everything from Arctic tundra to tropical rainforests. When she mentioned how some humans climbed Mount Everest for fun, the safety systems had to be overridden 3 more times. "Fascinating," Venarks chimed, their crystalline form vibrating with academic fervor. "Let's proceed to atmospheric pressure variations." The chamber reconfigured itself, creating zones of different atmospheric pressures. Most students immediately activated their pressure suits or withdrew to their environmental comfort zones. Zara, meanwhile, was explaining how humans regularly went scuba diving or climbed mountains without powered assistance. "You willingly subject yourself to pressure differentials for recreation?" Kix asked, their feathers shifting to a color Zara hadn't seen before. "Well, yeah. We even have something called freediving, where people hold their breath and swim deep underwater." "Hold there. You can voluntarily suspend respiratory functions." A Morbulian student literally lost cohesion from shock, having to reform itself from a puddle. The day continued with more revelations about human capabilities. When Zara explained about human marathons, several students had to be escorted to the medical bay for anxiety treatment. The concept of Parker nearly caused a mass evacuation. But something unexpected was happening. Instead of just fear, some students were showing genuine curiosity. Kix, in particular, had moved close enough that their force field occasionally brushed against Zara's arm. "Would you—" Kix's translator hesitated, recalibrating. "Would you be willing to demonstrate some of your species' physical training techniques? With appropriate safety measures, of course." Before Zara could answer, Grax interrupted. "This is preposterous. No single species could possess such adaptations. I demand proof of these claims." Administrator Venarx's crystals pulsed with concern. "Perhaps a controlled demonstration." "The crucible," Grax declared, causing a wave of translated gasps. "If the Deathworlder is so capable, let them attempt the crucible." The chamber fell silent. Even the environmental control systems seemed to quiet down. "The crucible is forbidden," Venarx chimed nervously. "Not since the unfortunate vapor lock incident of cycle 7249. "What's the crucible?" Zara asked, already knowing she'd regret it. "A theoretical maximum challenge course," Kix explained, feathers trembling. "It combines every environmental extreme in the Academy's database. No student has ever completed it. Most species can't even survive in the observation area." Zara felt a familiar spark of competitive spirit, the same one that had driven her to break records back on Earth. "I'll do it." "Absolutely not," Venarx chimed in alarm. "The liability alone." "I'll sign whatever waivers you need," Zara insisted. "But if we're going to break down barriers between species, someone has to take the first step, or jump, or climb, whatever the crucible requires." A low hum filled the chamber as students began discussing in their native languages, translators struggling to keep up with the excited chatter. "Very well," Venarx finally resonated, their crystalline form shifting to a formal configuration. "The crucible will be prepared for tomorrow's session. Specimen Patel, please report to medical for a complete baseline analysis and to sign approximately 300 pages of liability waivers." As the students filed out, Kix lingered behind. The crucible isn't just a physical challenge, they warned, feathers shifting to a deep, serious tone. It was designed to test the absolute limits of sapient capability. Are you certain about this? Zara smiled, feeling that familiar pre-competition excitement. On Earth, we have a saying, hold my beer. I don't understand. Is this beer a power source? Something like that. See you tomorrow. Kix's feathers flickered with what Zara was learning to recognize as amusement. I will observe from the maximum safe distance, as any sane being would. As Zara headed to the medical bay, she could hear the news spreading through the Academy's communication networks. Tomorrow would either be a triumph for human-alien relations or the most spectacular diplomatic incident since first contact. Probably both. The Crucible lived up to its name. Standing in the preparation chamber, Zara stared through the reinforced observation window at what looked like every hostile environment in the galaxy compressed into one room. Final safety check. Administrator Venerx chimed anxiously. The medical team is standing by with 17 different types of emergency stasis fields. The Academy's insurance underwriters are on suicide watch. Are you absolutely certain? I'm ready, Zara interrupted, stretching her shoulders. She'd traded her Academy uniform for Earth-standard athletic wear, much to the horror of the safety committee. The observation gallery was packed. Students from every department had come to watch, safely contained behind multiple layers of protective shielding. Kix had somehow managed to secure a front-row position, their feathers cycling through nervous colors. The Crucible has 3 stages, Venerx explained, crystal segments pulsing with formal patterns. Each must be completed in sequence. No technological assistance is permitted beyond basic life support. The current record for survival time is 47 seconds. Who set that record? Zara asked, continuing her warm-up routine. A malfunctioning maintenance drone. Grax's crystalline voice cut through the chamber. Last chance to withdraw, Deathworlder. No one would blame you for recognizing your limitations. Zara responded by stepping into the airlock. The chamber's egg began its countdown. Stage 1 commencing in 3, 2, 1. The first blast of heat would have melted most species' environmental suits. To Zara, it felt like a particularly aggressive sauna. The terrain shifted between molten rock and frozen crystal, requiring constant adaptation. She moved steadily forward, using techniques learned from years of parkour and rock climbing. Impossible. Grax's voice echoed through the observation speakers. The temperature differentials alone should have triggered emergency protocols. Zara reached the first checkpoint in 2 minutes, barely breaking a sweat. What's next? Stage 2 introduced what the Academy considered extreme gravity fluctuations. For someone who'd grown up training in Earth's gravity and spent summers at her uncle's lunar facility, it was practically a bounce house. Zara adapted her movements to the changing conditions, using the varying gravity fields to her advantage. Remarkable, she heard Professor Instill comment. The specimen is actually utilizing the environmental hazards as locomotion assists. The final stage was meant to be the impossible one. A combination of toxic atmospheres, radiation levels, and pressure changes that no single species had ever survived. The Academy's A was practically having a nervous breakdown trying to monitor Zara's life signs. Warning: detecting potentially lethal conditions. Emergency shutdown recommended. Override shutdown. Zara called out, her voice steady despite the exertion. I'm fine. She wasn't just fine, she was enjoying herself. The course was challenging, yes, but no more so than some of the extreme sports training she'd done on Earth. As she navigated the final obstacles, she could hear the growing excitement from the observation gallery. "Time check," she asked, reaching for the final marker. There was a moment of stunned silence before Venarx responded. 6 minutes, 43 seconds. You actually completed it. Zara touched the finish point, triggering a cascade of achievement signals. The chamber began its safety shutdown sequence as medical teams rushed in, only to find her doing cool-down stretches. "How?" Grax demanded, their crystalline form vibrating with confusion. The combined environmental factors exceed survival parameters for any known species. "That's the thing about humans," Zara explained, accepting a hydration pack from a nervous medical drone. "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us in so many ways that we got good at handling pretty much everything. What you call extreme conditions, we call Tuesday." The observation gallery erupted in a chaos of excited chatter and disbelieving exclamations. Students were frantically updating the Academy's xenobiology databases. Several professors appeared to be having existential crises. Kix approached, their force field deliberately powered down. "That was. I don't think we have words in any language for what that was." "Thanks," Zara grinned. "Want to learn some basic human workout techniques? I'll start you off easy. Maybe some light yoga." "Is that the combat technique you mentioned earlier?" "Not exactly. Though you should see what happens when humans combine different disciplines. Ever heard of Parker Yoga?" The medical drone monitoring nearby vital signs immediately went into emergency shutdown. As the excitement began to settle, Administrator Venarx approached with an unusual request. "Specimen Patel. Zara, the Academy Board has a proposition. Would you be interested in helping us design a new physical education curriculum? One that takes into account the unique capabilities of your species." "On one condition," Zara replied. "Stop calling me specimen. And maybe consider that humans aren't the only ones with hidden capabilities. We just had different challenges to overcome." Looking around at her fellow students, Zara saw something new in their reactions, not just fear or awe, but recognition. Perhaps this was what real interspecies understanding looked like. Realizing that everyone's normal was someone else's impossible. "Also," she added with a smile, "wait until you hear about human dance competitions." The Academy's safety systems began flashing warnings again. It was going to be an interesting semester. The Academy's emergency sirens pierced the artificial night cycle, their urgent wail echoing through every corridor. Zara jolted awake in her reinforced quarters, already moving before the A's announcement finished. "Alert. Critical failure in primary gravitational stabilizers. Station orbit degrading. All non-essential personnel proceed to emergency pods." The corridors were chaos. Students of various species rushed in all directions, some floating, others crawling, many simply vibrating in panic. The Academy's artificial gravity was fluctuating wildly, causing further confusion. "Zara." Kix's voice cut through the pandemonium. "The Sirene was using their wings to stabilize against the gravity shifts. The containment systems in the xenobiology labs are failing. Some students are trapped." Without hesitation, Zara sprinted toward the labs, her Earth-trained muscles automatically compensating for the gravitational fluctuations. She found Professor Engstill trying to organize a rescue effort, their tentacles writhing with stress patterns. "The emergency doors are sealed," the professor explained, skin pulsing emergency colors. "The override systems are in the maintenance shaft, but the radiation levels. How long would a normal species survive in there?" Zara interrupted. Approximately 30 seconds before cellular breakdown begins. Zara was already moving toward the maintenance access. I can hold my breath for 2 minutes. That should be enough. But the gravity pulses are still only hitting about Earth normal at peak. I got this. The maintenance shaft was a nightmare of radiation warnings and failing systems. Zara moved through it like she was running an obstacle course, reaching the override controls just as her lungs began burning for air. With a sequence of quick adjustments, she restored power to the emergency systems. The sealed doors slid open, allowing trapped students to evacuate. But Zara's job wasn't done. For the next hour, she worked alongside maintenance crews, using her Deathworlder strength and endurance to help stabilize critical systems. It was Grax, surprisingly, who came up with the solution to the orbital decay. If we can synchronize the remaining gravitational stabilizers with the station's spin, we could use the momentum to push ourselves back into stable orbit. Zara finished, surprising everyone with her grasp of orbital mechanics. We have similar stations back home. Working together, the unlikely team of a human, a lithoid, and several other species managed to save the station. As emergency teams finished their work, Zara found herself surrounded by students who just weeks ago had feared to be in the same room with her. Perhaps, Grax admitted, their crystalline form-showing patterns of respect. We have been too quick to judge based on evolutionary origins. Kix landed gently nearby. It seems Deathworlder capabilities have their advantages. That's the thing, Zara said, helping a struggling Morbulian student regain cohesion. Every species here has something unique to offer. Humans aren't special because we're stronger or more durable. We're special because we never stop trying, just like each of you is special in your own way. The Academy would never quite be the same after that night. Neither would its students. 6 months after the orbital incident, Zara stood in the Academy's main auditorium, watching as the first wave of new human students arrived. The scene was dramatically different from her own first day. Instead of fear and suspicion, the alien students were eagerly greeting their new human classmates. A group of Sirens, led by Kix, was demonstrating their aerial maneuvers to an amazed human gymnast. Grax was deep in discussion with a human parkour enthusiast about combining their species' unique approaches to movement. Quite a change from your arrival, Professor Engstill observed, their skin displaying patterns of satisfaction. The integration initiative is exceeding all expectations. Administrator Venarx chimed in. Though our insurance premiums have increased significantly, the initiative had been Zara's proposal, a comprehensive program to bring more humans to the Academy while also highlighting the unique capabilities of other species. The Crucible had been redesigned into a collaborative challenge course where different species worked together, using their combined abilities to overcome obstacles no single species could handle alone. Did you ever imagine this when you first arrived? Kix asked, landing beside her. Zara watched as a Morbulian demonstrated their liquid form navigation techniques to a fascinated human swimmer. Nearby, a human rock climber was exchanging tips with a lithoid about scaling different mineral surfaces. Actually, this is better than I imagined, she replied. Look there. A young human was teaching a group of alien students something that made Venarx's crystals vibrate with alarm. Is that dancing? Breakdancing, specifically. Don't worry, I made them start with something simple. Wait until they discover capoeira. The Academy's safety systems had long since given up on issuing warnings about human activities. Instead, new protocols had been developed, focusing on responsible integration rather than separation. The Galactic Federation has taken notice. Professor Engstill mentioned their tentacles weaving patterns of excitement. There's talk of expanding the program to other institutions. Good, Zara smiled. Because humans aren't the only ones with surprises to share. Have you seen what Kix can do when they combine siren flight patterns with human acrobatic theory? The demonstration that followed set off every remaining safety alarm in the building. Nobody paid them any attention anymore. As Zara watched humans and aliens learning from each other, breaking down barriers with every shared technique and combined ability, she realized something important. The term Deathworlder was starting to fade from use, replaced by a new understanding. Every species had evolved to face their own challenges, and together they were stronger than anyone had imagined possible. Ready for the first cross-species Olympic demonstration next month? Kix asked. Are the emergency medical teams ready? All 17 of them. Then let's show the galaxy what we can all do together. The Academy's AA, which had long since given up trying to enforce standard safety protocols, simply added a new entry to its database. When humans say, let's show them what we can do, prepare for everything and expect the impossible. It was usually right. End.